The quota system, a legacy of gratitude. Bangladesh, born from a bloody struggle for independence in 1971, carries the legacy of its freedom fighters, known as Mukti Bahini. The government honored them through a special quota system. This system reserved government jobs and educational seats for Mukti Bahini and their families. It symbolized national unity and gratitude. Seeds of discontent, growing inequality, and frustration. As Bangladesh's economy grew, so did the aspirations of its people. A new generation, equipped with better education and global exposure, entered the job market. However, they found themselves facing stiff competition for limited opportunities, with the quota system seemingly tilting the scales in favor of a select few. This led to a growing sense of frustration and resentment, particularly among the youth. Many argued that it was unfair to deny opportunities to deserving candidates based solely on their family history. The fact that the quota system extended to descendants of freedom fighters, even generations later, further fueled the discontent. There were allegations of individuals falsely claiming to be descendants of freedom fighters to secure jobs and educational opportunities. This eroded public trust in the system and fueled the perception that it was being exploited for personal gain. The Spark student protests ignite a nation. In 2018, the simmering discontent over the quota system finally boiled over, erupting into widespread protests across Bangladesh. It began with a group of students from Dhaka University, who organized a peaceful demonstration demanding reforms to the quota system. The student protests quickly gained momentum, spreading to other universities and cities across the country. Social media played a crucial role in amplifying their voices, with hashtags like #quota-reform and #WeWantJustice trending nationwide. They organized peaceful marches, sit-ins, and hunger strikes, drawing attention to their cause and putting pressure on the government to address their demands. Their demands were clear: a comprehensive reform of the quota system, ensuring a level playing field for all job seekers and students, regardless of their family background. Section 4. The government's response, between recognition and repression. The government's initial response to the protests was hesitant and inadequate. They acknowledged the concerns of the protesters but were reluctant to make any significant changes to the quota system, fearing a backlash from the powerful pro-quota lobby. As the protests gained momentum, the government's response became increasingly heavy-handed. They deployed riot police to disperse the protesters, using tear gas, water cannons, and rubber bullets. There were reports of arbitrary arrests, beatings, and intimidation of protesters by law enforcement agencies. The government also attempted to control the narrative by restricting internet access, blocking social media platforms, and censoring news coverage of the protests. The government's crackdown on the protests drew widespread condemnation from human rights groups and international observers. Section 5. A deeper struggle. Democracy and representation at stake. The protests against the quota system exposed deeper fault lines within Bangladeshi society. They highlighted the growing gap between the ruling elite and the aspirations of the younger generation. The protests were not just about jobs and educational opportunities, they were about representation, equality, and the right to have a say in the decisions that affect their lives. The students who took to the streets were not just fighting for their own future. They were fighting for a more just and equitable Bangladesh for all its citizens. The ruling Awami League, which has been in power for over a decade, has been accused of becoming increasingly authoritarian and intolerant of criticism. The protests challenged the party's grip on power and its ability to control the narrative. Section 6. The future of Bangladesh. Navigating a divided nation. The quota system protests have left an indelible mark on Bangladesh's political landscape. They have forced the government to confront the issue of inequality and address the concerns of a new generation that is no longer content with the status quo. The protests have subsided for now, but the underlying issues that sparked them remain unresolved. The government has made some concessions, such as abolishing the quota system in certain sectors, but these are seen as piecemeal measures that fail to address the systemic issues of inequality and discrimination. The future of Bangladesh depends on its ability to bridge the divide between the different sections of its society. The challenge for Bangladesh is to build a future where the sacrifices of its freedom fighters are honored, not by perpetuating a system of privilege but by creating a nation where everyone has an equal opportunity to succeed.